right, welcome everybody to another Intent Company Live. IC Live. We're on our third week, day 11. Day 11. Yeah, so thank you guys for joining. In a new location again. I'm actually back in the DFW area. I'm actually in my office, not the recording studio where you guys usually see me. But hope you guys had an awesome weekend. And yeah, like I said last week, we were in Tampa. Brought a lot of us there for a conference. It was a fantastic time. Always really good to invest in yourself. And let's see here. All right, got a sounds good from Chelsea. Thank you. Back with my good mics. Thanks for bearing with me last week as we were hit the road show. So yeah, Intent Company Live, we are for 75 days going live, and every day we're talking about either business, personal growth, family, faith, just all the aspects of entrepreneurship. How do we become really thriving entrepreneurs, thrive in our business success, thrive in our business purpose and our impact. How do we do that all as being good spouses and parents and all the other things that are in our lives? Because again, I mean, we there's not enough people who talk about this stuff. I believe you can get all your information on business success and run marketing, run this, run that, and we talk about that as well. But the health of the entrepreneur, the health of the family associated to the entrepreneur, the health of the employees that are working for the entrepreneur. These are things that we just don't talk about nearly enough, and it's actually super, super important. And I believe this is going to be a big addition to your life going through kind of this kind of content and everything, because it's going to keep ourselves focused on why we did this in the first place. I think I shared some of that story last week on the Focus and Fire Day 1. But, we, as entrepreneurs, we have these grand visions of what we want to create. The impact we want to make, the success, the ideas, the lifestyle, all of those things. And then all of a sudden life or business happens, and it's very easy for us to almost feel like we just own a job. And we get kind of stuck in the trap of just trying to get by. But we don't want to just get by. We want to thrive. So if you go to intentcompany.com/live, the links I'm sure are in the comments. But right here is where you'll be able to kind of get access to everything that we're talking about on here. So we've got links to all the social networks. The last two, which look like look duplicated here. That's my personal YouTube, my personal LinkedIn. But we also have access to the Focus and Fire workshop. So, we did a little preview last week, but you can get the entire workshop for only $200. It's 90% off. It's a course we've never, ever discounted, but then all the proceeds, all the money is going to Feed the Hungry, a fantastic program that feeds hungry people around the world, focus a lot with kids and just supporting healthy families in places that don't have good supply of regular meals. You can also go to Join Intent Company Group. So if you click on this, it'll go to a registration page. You can join our online community. You get instant access to a bunch of free courses, templates, tools, all kinds of good stuff. Our WOW campaign blueprint. If you are someone who has a healthy stream of customers right now, you've got customers. This right here is probably is I believe the single most important thing you should be doing from a marketing perspective. This is how do you turn your customers into raving fans, and so you can get access to that there. And if you want to learn more about kind of like what we do, customer journey marketing, full path to purchase marketing, whatever you want to call it, you can go over here, take our customer journey assessment, and from there, we'll give you a bunch of free tools and content, access to a bunch of things. So that's our spiel. So today, I want to start a conversation, because I believe that this conversation will probably have a few different parts to it. And what I want to talk about is routines, and I want to talk about habits. So we have, if you look back on our workshops and if you've been following along on the things that we've been doing, you'll remember at one point we did our goal setting workshop. In our goal setting workshop, we talked about, how do we create compelling goals that help, create the right destination, where we're trying to go, our preferred future, right? And then we talked about talent, skills, and ambitions last week, which was really a nice little snapshot of kind of like, okay, where are we? Who are we? What is our giftings? What is our skill set? And I think those things are super connected, because the more we operate out of our unique superpower, the more we operate out of this core passion, it's kind of like the vehicle that's going to propel us to where we're going. It's like I think a vehicle is a good analogy. It's a vehicle that's going to propel us to our preferred destination. But now, routines and habits, they're kind of like the efficiency or the effectiveness of how our vehicle moves. Actually, it's kind of almost like how our vehicle is built. It's the quality of the engine, the tires, again, I'm not trying to get stuck on this journey. Well, actually, yeah, I am, because that's kind of what we're on, a journey. And if you think about the routines that you have, the habits that you have, and we'll talk about the differences in just a second, they're either accelerating your journey towards your desired destination, or they're actually hindering you. They're almost like, it'd be, again, like using this analogy, you want to get somewhere, but you haven't changed the oil and your engine's about to seize up. That's a sabotage on where you're trying to go. Or if you've got one tire that's completely flat and running on the rim, that's going to slow you down and prevent you from getting there. And not only is in a singular issue, like you could say, oh, I got all this stuff going great, but there's this one area or these two areas where I don't have the best habits. I don't have the best things. Well, guess what? A driving on your rim is going to negatively affect other aspects of your vehicle. You're going to have other issues. So just like that, some bad habits and some bad routines, they can also, they'll affect the rest of the vehicle. They'll affect the rest of what you got going on. And you know that to be true. And there's certain habits you have in your personal life that almost sabotage your business success. There could be routines in your business that are actually sabotaging your personal life. Everything affects everything. Everything affects everything. And so it's very important for us to look at, again, this is another one of those sober self-assessments. Let's take a look at what our routines, what our habits are, decide which ones of these are helping us get to where we want to go, and then which ones are preventing us, are slowing us down from getting to where we want to go. Now, I'll give you kind of a loose framework for this. So a habit is really a individual thing that we tend to do based on a response. Actually, I think, two of the best books that I've read on this subject, one is Atomic Habits by James Clear, and then before that, because actually James Clear even talks about this book quite a bit in his book Atomic Habits, is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And those two books are phenomenal. And so if you think about using this reference from Charles Duhigg, here, let me pull up a graphic for us to take a look at. Just did a quick search on the Googles, and there's this right here, the 3 R's of habit formation. So this is from Charles Duhigg's book. Okay, and so they talk about this idea, the reminder, the routine, the reward. Now, when I'm talking about routines, I'm talking about something a little different, but the reminder is there's a trigger. There is something that happens. So in this example, they say the traffic light turns green, right? Well, when that turns green, what happens? Your foot hits the gas pedal. And what's the reward? You get closer to your destination. So if you think about everything that we do that is habitual, always has a trigger. There's something that triggers the activity. And actually, let me pull this over. This is actually from James Clear's website. And again, I definitely recommend you go over there, check it out. So let me zoom in a little bit. I don't know if you can see that well. One more. All right. He adds another element to the trigger, which he calls a craving. Okay, so he says a cue, a craving, a response, and reward. Same kind of framework. But the idea is that there is something that triggers the moment. And this is what's super important to realize, is that oftentimes if we have habits, like maybe some bad habits, and we're like, I don't know how to get over this bad habit. Well, what you're realizing is that you're actually, if you focus on the activity that you do, like, oh, I bite my nails, or I go on TV at times I shouldn't, or I just, whatever the thing that you don't really like that you do, you can't just focus on stop doing the thing that you don't like doing. You actually have to back up and realize that there is a trigger or a cue that when that happens, it initiates this thing to start. Okay? So a cue, craving, response, reward. So again, this is, if you do a search on James Clear's website, 3 Steps to Habit Change, there's some great content in here. But it really does start with the cue. Let's use a couple of these examples, right? Cue, your phone buzzes with a new text message. You want to learn the contents of the message, the craving. The response, you grab your phone, read the text. Reward, you satisfy your craving by reading the message. So that's just like a real basic idea. But now think about this. Think about all the cues that you're getting on a regular basis, right? So like that talked about like a text message. But you think about social media. Like if you've got a social media addiction, you don't really have an addiction to like scrolling. You have an addiction to maybe like fear of missing out, wanting to know what everyone else is doing, or it's a fear response, right? Like actually I know I have that is sometimes when I'm anxious about something, I'll have a bad habit of just being like, oh, I want to like make the anxiety go away. So it's just like, right? Like that's something I've recognized that I've done in the past. And that is, so it's really not the habit. It's not the thing that you're doing. It's what makes the reason you makes you start. Okay, cool. Chelsea sent me a cool graphic. Let's put this back up. Here's another good visual for the habit loop. So cue, craving, response, reward. And then this is good too to think about it in a loop, because that is the other aspect of a habit. If you think about it, the reward that you get and the strength of the reward that you get actually reinforces the cues. So if you think about this from like an alcohol or drug problem, right? You're like stressed out. Something again happens. There was something with finances or a relationship or that thing or whatever it gets you. And you immediately feel that anxiety, that stress. You're like, I want that stress to go away. Well, you know what? The faster I drink this beer or take a hit of this thing, the faster I do that, it makes the pain go away. So what you do it and you get the reward. Well, and then the faster you get that reward and the more intense that reward is, the more it supports the cue. So then every time that happens, you go back into that. So that's why you can see that there can be destructive patterns that are happening that we're reinforcing by the way that we respond with these external cues. So the thing is, you can't really stop the cue so much. So for instance, that is stress going to go away, right? You could be like, okay, well now I know how to, stop being an alcoholic. I'm just not going to have any stress in my life. Obviously that's not the case, right? Like you're not going to be able to avoid the stress. What you've got to change is your immediate response to that cue. You've got to catch it in that moment of like, how do you think about things and where you do stuff. So let me give you an example that's not, maybe not quite as intense. The waking up is a natural cue, right? You think about it. Every day you wake up. Every day that you wake up, there is a pattern to your day. It's crazy. Think about it. Like I'm sure everyone watching this would agree that you basically do the exact same thing for the first 30 minutes of every single day. Like you do. And you could think, so, what is that? Sometimes people, when they wake up, they just lay in bed. Maybe they lay in bed and they start scrolling on their phone right away, right? Or, so you got to think about that. How is that helping you get to where you want to go? You not getting out of bed, laying in bed, going on Facebook, going on Instagram, scrolling around, doing things. If that's something that you had, like, that would be you woke up, cue. Your immediate response when you wake up maybe is like, I don't want to get out of bed, or I just want to see what's going on, or I don't really want to start my day. So you have this delay mechanism where you just go on your phone. How long do you stay there? Do you want to do that? Do you feel great after you do that? No. So you might be like, okay, I need to change that habit or that. And what I just mentioned here too, like, morning is really great because what your morning really is a series of habits that you do. And they're usually concurrent, right? So as you finish one habit, you probably go to the next habit, go to the next habit. I believe that set of habits that you do is what we would call a routine. And a routine is a set of habits. So you have, there's routines that you have all through the day, but the 4 main routines would be your first thing when you wake up, first thing you do when you start work, then what you do when you stop work, and then what do you do when you end your day. Those are the 4 main routines, and we'll talk about those in a second. But going back to this this habit in the cues, and so let's say that that's what you do. You first wake up, you sit in bed, you get on your phone, you scroll, right? So let's say you don't want to do that anymore. Let's just say, the first thing that I want to do is I want to get immediately out of bed. I want to just start my day, and I'm gonna, maybe go get a cup of coffee, right? I'm gonna go make a cup of coffee. I want to get my day going right away, and that's something you want to do. You don't want to delay any of your time in between that. So you've got to now literally deconstruct what you currently do and initiate the new thing that you want to do, because the cue is going to happen. You're going to wake up. But when you wake up, what do you do? So one good example, so if you have a habit of snooze, lingering in bed, all that, and you want to stop that, well, what's a mechanism that you could do, that you could apply, that would almost force you to do that? Well, one thing would be, like, let's say you use your cell phone for your alarm clock. What if you took your cell phone and you put it in the bathroom or on the other side of the room on another table? So when that alarm goes off, you're waking up, same thing you've always done, but now you're almost forced to get yourself out of bed. So now you're using this capability to now, like, literally force you up. And then boom, now you're at the dresser, you hit snooze, you shut off your alarm, whatever it is, and now you're already out of bed. You've already got that momentum. You already got 5 steps going. Keep going. Get out of your room, and whatever the next step might be. So likewise, actually, I'll give you one that I've been, as I was thinking about this, realizing that I need to do. And so I have, as I take a sip, it's actually tea, but I may drink too much coffee. That may be a thing for me. And so when I wake up, the very first thing I do is I go and make a cup of coffee. And so drinking coffee right away is my normal flow, but it's not probably the healthiest thing for me. It's just to go directly into caffeine, and it's not good for hydration and different things like that. So one of the things that I should do is, as I'm making that coffee, let's say, and I go over and I go to my my faucet and I'm putting water in the tea kettle to heat up the water. I go over there. Is I should also just fill up a cup of water, and I should drink at 12 ounces of water right before, while the water's heating up, and it wouldn't take any other time, and I can get hydration, and I could drink some water right before I do that. Right? So that's, again, so you take a routine and you got to deconstruct it, put it in a different way to then create the momentum. And that's where your goals are also important too, because if we're talking about getting a reward, right? We have the cue, we have the craving, we respond, we do something, and then we get the reward. The rewards that are most, or habits that are most destructive, tend to have, I don't know, I guess like a reward that is not, I would say, the most highest level thinking, let's say. Like, I just like saying like this, saying like, I don't want to feel bad, right? Again, if you have anxiety, fear, stress, that's your, I don't want to feel anxiety, right? It's not a super high level reward that you're looking for. Versus, let's say, like, I want to feel great. I want to have vitality. I want to have power. I want to have energy, or, something like that, right? So you're almost going to change your reward a little bit and create something a little higher. Because, again, what if, like, first thing you do, you get out of bed, you throw your shoes on, and you throw your shoes on, and you just go for a walk you go around the block. You go for a walk right around the block, and then you come back and you do the rest of your stuff. Right? Now, instead of just saying like, oh, I don't feel anxious, now you can actually have the benefit of, well, not only do I not feel anxious, I actually feel energized, I feel good, and then that can lead to the next thing. And then, like, let's say, like, with your other, for me, I think a morning routine, I'll talk about some of the things I try to add into it, but you can actually leverage your routine. You can leverage your habits into better habits. So, like, let's say that, you want to work out every morning, and that's something that you want to include in your morning routine. Well, that might just seem like that's so difficult. I don't know how I could just like go and lift and work out or do, whatever I want to do. So instead, what if you leveraged into it? Meaning, like, yeah, you might not be able to work out, but maybe could you go for a walk? Because the thing is after you actually go for a walk, you're going to have momentum. And when you have momentum, you can then move into harder things. So that's one of the things that I do in my morning routine is I go for a walk first. I have kind of like this prayer and declaration walk that I do as part of my morning routine. And that gets me moving, gets me feeling better, gets, some oxygen in me. And then from there, I immediately go to work out. And I always find that the workout is much more intense, much more beneficial when I do that kind of morning walk first. So I kind of leverage one into the other. So one of the first things that we can do is start to like take a look at, and you might already know, like, hey, I know I have specific habits that are totally like not healthy. These are negative habits, and I got to deconstruct them. So if that's the case, one thing I would recommend that you do is start to like journal every time you fall into it. Right? If you fall into, in just like web surfing and random social scrolling when you don't want to, or watching TV, procrastination habits, any kind of deconstructive habit, is start to journal and like have it with you. And every time that you do that, just write down like what happened, like what triggered that, because it could be like, oh, I got an email that I didn't want to get, or somebody complained about something, or something happened and then all of a sudden I did this. Now you can literally see the connection. Like when I have this emotion, when this trigger hits me, I tend to go down this road to solve or to reward, or whatever the case, we want to call it, that particular emotion. Then start to think about, okay, well, what could I do instead? What would be like a higher level, a higher self response when that happens? And one thing I would say too, if it's emotional stuff, right? Like if you got some cues that hit you emotionally, like, I feel this way about myself, or I feel this way about the situation. One thing I would recommend is to create some declarations that you can literally confess as soon as that happens. Maybe like, anytime you feel that fear, you stand up and you go, God did not give me this spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. There's so much power in agreement. There's so much power in our confession. And a lot of times why we fall in these traps is we have this negative thought, this negative, thing that comes at us, and we almost like, yeah, boy, that really sucks, or you almost like kind of adopt, or yeah, that's the case, and then it hurts, and you want that pain to go away, and so you have some kind of habit or process that you do to make the pain go away. And here's the thing: the pain never goes away. We just delay the pain. And maybe actually I'll do that another time. But we don't. Anytime you have a coping mechanism, it never makes the problem or the pain go away. It just delays it. And the problem is, usually when you feel it again, it comes back stronger. Right? Like if you know there's just something that you got to do. I just got to take care of this. I got to take care of this. You delaying it and distracting yourself so you don't have to think about it. When that distraction ends, it didn't make the problem any better. Actually, the problem got worse. The only way to actually remove that pain is by you pressing through and doing what you need to do. So you've got to create a healthier response mechanism. Because when the pain comes back again, you're just going to go back into your same distraction cycle, same distraction cycle, same distraction cycle. And that's not going to help. So it's just going to make things worse. So have your journal, document, when these habits or these things, these routines that you don't like, that you do, when they happen, write it down. When procrastination hits, fear hits, this hits, that hits, write it down and figure out what those triggers are. And then think about what would be a more beneficial first thing that I could do. So again, confession, things like that are really important. The other thing too is I like, in some way, me doing these 75 lives is kind of a response to all the times, right? Because like I've known I had to record content for a long time, but every time I went to go do it, I feel this, but I got this going on and that call's happening and this and that. And I make all these excuses about how busy I was. So doing 75 consecutive lives is almost like it's an aggressive action towards destroying that belief or that thing that I kept saying I couldn't do. So yeah, confess, declare. But let me ask you, what's a super positive thing that you could do? Like an aggressive, right? Like if fear's hitting you in a certain direction, how can you hit fear back? How can you go right back at it and have kind of like that aggressive counterpunch mentality where you counterpunch those negative emotions with something like super positive, super good, right? If you got certain thoughts are about like maybe like yourself and your, how you feel and your weight, your appearance, and that hits you. You know what? Every time you get that, go for a walk. Go for a walk and declare good things over you. Like punch it in the face. And so anyway, so do that. Journal. What are the negative things? What are the stuff that you could be doing to do that? And then the other thing I want you to document are your routines. Now, we have many different routines at different times. I mean, it's pretty much anything you do on a regular basis has a routine. Like if you go and drive to work, you have a routine. You have directions that you take. You may stop at the same place and get coffee every day. You may you have a routine. And so if there's other major routines, write them down. But I also want you to do right here and write down, what are the things that I do every day when I wake up? What are those things in order that I do every day when I wake up? 2, what are the things that I do every day when I start work? This is why another great book I have over there, it's called Scrum, and it's based on the agile framework of execution. And one of the things, an actual Scrum, so it's like a project management methodology. Like how do you actually get work done? And in this methodology, one of the main components is they have these things called daily scrums. And so every day it's like a 15-minute meeting, and everybody who's part of this project management team getting stuff done, all they do, it's a stand. So you stand, don't sit down, 15-minute meeting, and you go around and you talk about what you did yesterday towards the accomplishment of this goal, what problems you faced, and then what you're going to do today. Now, there's a lot of other stuff part of this agile framework, but the thing that I love about that that scrum, if you call it, is it's a routine. It's a habit where every day the first thing that we do is we talk about what we did. So there's this accountability aspect. So every day you're going to have to do that. So there's like pressure, there's accountability to actually, okay, I'm going to have to share tomorrow what I did. You're also, sharing the issues that you're facing. So now you're bringing other people in to kind of help solve it. And then you're also declaring what you're going to do today. So it's, again, another level of accountability. But you're also starting your day with major focus. You're focusing in and saying, the most important thing that I can do today is this. And so by having that, it's really one of the best productivity frameworks there is. But I think one of the big components that they don't really talk about too much is the power of that habit of those scrum meetings and the routine and the momentum that it creates. So again, 4 routines. How do you start your day? How do you start your work day? How do you end your work day? What do you do to end your work day? Most people sigh and leave. But there's routines that we could create at the end of the day. And we'll talk about those on the next time we talk about this. But write down, what do you tend to do before you end your work day? And then lastly, what do you do when you end your day? What do you do when you end your day? So like, what does it look like your, going to bed routine? Because I'll tell you, like, having a great start to your day actually starts the night before. When you go to bed, how prepared you are for certain things. Like, it's a massive thing to focus on, how you end your day. So I gave you guys some homework, and that's where I want you to focus, because I want you to do this because we're going to talk about this again. And if you have this stuff detailed, if you have this habit cycle and you have your routines listed, on the next time we do this, we're going to go and look through those things. I'm going to give you some ideas on how we can improve our habits and our routines. And then also, I want you to actually, as you're looking at these habits and routines, I want you to ask yourself, how much does this help me be the person that I said I wanted to be, or go the place that I say I wanted to go? So I've talked a lot about everyday disciplines, right? We talked about having this grand vision for what we want to accomplish, right? Having these everyday disciplines that we do. That's a big part of what we're talking about. And I love this quote by Aristotle. It says, we are what we do, or we are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an act, but a habit. It's really true. We are what we repeatedly do. And there's things that we repeatedly do, there's things that there's things that I repeatedly do that are non-intentional. Like, we didn't want them to happen. It's just the way it goes. And if we can just start by being very intentional about, okay, well, now I see it. I do this every day. Why do I do that? Or I always respond in this way when that happens. Now, because we are conscious of that, we can do something about it. And so that's what this exercise is. This is this thing that I want you to do here. So your habits, especially the unhealthy habits, we're going to deconstruct those. What's the cue? What do you do? How do you feel after you do it? And then your routines, your 4 main routines. So write those things down, journal those, take inventory over what you're doing. And then on the next one, we will dive into that and see how we can improve those. So, all right. Well, that's what I got for today. Again, go over to intentcompany.com/live. Make sure you check out all of our stuff. Focus and Fire workshop. Join the Intent Company group, our WOW campaign blueprint, and the customer journey assessment. So appreciate you guys. Thanks everyone for joining and for always being on these. I really appreciate it. Again, leave any comments if you want me to dive in on any particular topics, especially around marketing, sales, business growth, things like that. And so we will see you tomorrow, 12 p.m. Central Time, for another 75 Live. Appreciate you guys. I hope you have an amazing day. We'll see you tomorrow. All right. Thank you so much. Take care.